Hey folks, good morning. How are you? So, welcome to this is a very special day today. So, in this video that we're going to do now, and two other videos to follow today, is part of my Celebrate Who You Are Day. All my life, I grew up when I was younger with prejudice for being a gay person. There's a lot of homophobia out there. There still is homophobia out there. So I thought I would put together some little videos featuring some openly gay music artists. Okay, so what we're going to do is for the first video today, we're actually going to look at a little documentary about a very famous openly gay person. And then as the day progresses, there will be some more music videos released as well. But you know something, to be openly gay and to be an openly celebrate who you are day, this place is looking a bit dull, so let's brighten it up a wee bit. There, that's better. Right, so today folks, we are going to be looking at Jimmy Somerville, and the title is Smalltown Boy, Bronski Beat and Being Openly Gay in the 80s Pop, New British Canon. This video has came from Trash Theory's YouTube channel. I will put a link to their YouTube channel in the description. So let's get the video up. And basically what's going to do is we're going to start back in the 80s here with Jimmy Somerville, Larry Steinbeck and Steve Bronski, who originally wasn't called Steve Bronski, but you should hear all about this anyway. And if anybody doesn't know, Steve Bronski was actually a friend of mine before he passed away, sadly. So let's get the video up. I'll tell you more about that after. So let's get the video up. Oh, there's Pete Burns. Lovely. What way to start a video. Right, so I'll get my earphones or I will hear nothing. So come with me as we travel back in time to the 80s. So here we go. Here we go.
1984 was a particularly flamboyant year for British pop. Relax overcame its radio ban to spend 5 weeks at UK #1. George Michael alluded to his future solo aspirations with Careless Whisper. Pete Burns' Dead or Alive proved that the combination of High Energy and Stock Aitken Waterman equaled chart success. And Freddie Mercury dressed in drag for the I Want to Break Free video. But aside from the two core members of Frankie Goes to Hollywood, most of these men were living some kind of closeted existence. However, also debuting in 1984 were Bronski Beat, fronted by Jimmy Somerville, a Scottish socialist with the voice of a disco diva, packed within his buzz-cut 5'4" frame. They were three openly gay men writing honestly about their lives. Their melancholic debut single is a synth-pop escape from a small town in its small minds, with its destination simply being somewhere better, both for themselves and LGBTQ+ pop. This is New British Canon, and this is the story of Smalltown Boy.
Here we go.
Jimmy Somerville grew up in Glasgow in the 70s. By the age of 10, he had a strong feeling that he might be different from the other boys at school. When not out causing havoc with his school friends, he'd be sitting in his room in the shadow of his beloved Donny Osmond poster, listening to a mix of Bowie, Connie Francis, and disco.
There's a starman waiting in the sky. Feel the need, oh feel the need in me.
I actually know all them songs.
Just gonna take me some time.
His parents didn't understand his eccentricities, But by the age of 14, Jimmy was sure he was gay, but with no one to talk to about his identity and limited information available to him, his early teenage years would be fraught. When I was 15, my mammy sent me to a psychiatrist, to a mental hospital. I tried doing myself in. I was really fucked up. I stayed there for a week to see if they could change me.
So his mum took him to a psychiatrist because he was gay, and he wanted to see if they could try to change him. It's just so different in those days. Even, you know, it wasn't that long ago, really. You know, it just shows you how much things have changed. He had to go through that. It's unbelievable.
After that, I walked out. I guess
Gee,
that
Dave.
was the day that changed my life. I just decided to hell with what anyone else thinks.
Yep,
I'm gonna be and do what I want.
yep.
My mum realised after that I wasn't mad. She's really great now. She meets my boyfriends, and she's dead proud of the band. Like many gay men in the 1970s, Somerville found his salvation in the discotheque, nervously
people.
sneaking into one of Glasgow's rare gay-friendly underground clubs while still a teenager. The music not only called to him, but made him feel less alone. I first went on my own, and I was completely shitting myself. I think I was so scared, I threw up on the bus on the way. I got to the club, and the first thing I ever done.
I never forget the first time I went to a gay club, I was on my own too. We all seemed to do it on our own. And the first time I went into a club, it was actually in London. It wasn't in Northern Ireland here, because that's where I came out in London, first of all, because I was living over there. And I never forget it, when I walked in, I was sitting there and I was staring at the table, and I was afraid to lift my head and look at anyone. It was just so terrifying. It really, really was.
Danced to in a grown-up club was 15 minutes of Love Trilogy by Donna Summer. By the time it had finished, I remember thinking, this is it. This is what it's all about. And this is what I am all about. In 1979, for his 18th birthday, Somerville and a friend ran away to London. They had no money, but after experiencing the nightlife of the capital and how much more unashamedly themselves they could be, returning to Glasgow wasn't an option. Somerville would live in squats, and among various short-lived jobs, would on occasion rent himself for extra cash. Going out clubbing every night, his attempt to become an apprentice baker ended prematurely when he was caught sleeping in the ovens in a post-party come-down. Eventually, Somerville would move in with a like-minded couple, BT engineer Larry Steinbeck and keyboardist Steve Forrest. Through this cohabitation, Somerville would contribute to the 1982 documentary Framed Youth, The Revenge of the Teenage Perverts, tackling the British general public's attitudes towards homosexuality.
What the word lesbian means?
No.
You don't? Do you know what the word homosexual means?
No, I don't think so either.
Do you know what the word heterosexual means?
Yes, it's in between the two, I guess, somewhere.
Is it?
Working on the project made Somerville aware of his latent socialist leanings. It was the first time that I'd really been aware of any political structure to our lives. I knew that I was working class, and that there was a barrier between the rich and the poor, but I was never really interested in that aspect of life until the Framed Youth period. There was a lot of confrontational stuff in the film, and it was refreshing to be doing that, confronting things head on, in such a positive way. It was another coming out period, really. I suppose I began to get a lot more cynical. On such a low budget production, and unable to license music for the film, Somerville sang a poem he had written to a spare drum machine beat for the soundtrack.
My freedom, my prison cell, my tempting to destroy, my fantasies, my lost control, my confusion, disillusion.
Now, actually, no, By the way, anybody doesn't know, I know a lot about this band. You know, I did follow them when I was younger. And that little snippet, which you'll probably hear in a minute as soon as I've said it, actually became a song. I think it was called Junk, wasn't it? I think so. Let's see.
The resulting song, Screaming, would be the first time he'd sung for
Screaming.
other people. His only previous experience being belting along to Donna Summer and Sylvester records in his room. His flatmates, upon hearing this, decided to expand on the song, giving it a rudimentary synth-pop makeover for fun.
Screaming. And that album there, Hundreds of Thousands, that was the first one. I think that was their first album. I think it was.
From this, in July 1983, Bronski Beat was born. They took their name from the true father of the perma-drumming Eternal Boy protagonist, with the glass-smashing screech of 1979 German film, The Tin Drum.
That's me first thing in the morning.
With Forrest also claiming the surname for himself. Their first live appearance was at the Gay and Lesbian Arts Festival, September in the Pink in 1983, quickly gaining the band gigs and favour within London's homosexual community. Labels were also making their interest felt, including Trevor Horn and Paul Morley's ZTT, fresh from having buffed Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Relax to a nation-shocking disco metal sheen. And ZTT had similar designs to mould Bronski Beat's sound and image. It was just before the famous marketing campaign with the Relax t-shirts that made Frankie famous. Morley's idea was to have us wear and market t-shirts that basically said that we were gay, because they'd have words like queer or puff printed on them.
You've got to be joking me. I know queer these days has become acceptable, you know, apparently in the gay community, because, you know, people identify themselves as queer now. In my day, it was a big insult. And even now, when I hear people talking about it, you know, the queer community, it doesn't seem right to me, but that's the way I grew up, you know. But to have them and expect them to wear them on a t-shirt, and also have, what was it? Poof? Oh my God.
I have to admit that they were great designs, but I wasn't really interested in some kind of controversy, or being reduced to the fact that I'm a gay male. I had to make the decision between remaining free or being produced by Trevor Horn, and I picked freedom. Instead, after a mere 9 live gigs, Bronski Beat signed with London Records, and teamed up with Mike Vaughan of Soft Cell's non-stop erotic cabaret fame to produce their debut single. Back when Somerville was still trying to work out his place in the world, he purchased the Village People's debut 1977 self-titled mini-album. A year before YMCA, it consisted of 4 tracks seemingly designed to guide the young gay men of the US to the places they could go for acceptance. Years later, I realized that the album was a map of gay America. There was a song about San Francisco. The Village People were from Greenwich Village. And another song was named after Fire Island, which was a resort where people went to party at weekends. This journey to find acceptance is shown in Bronski Beat's debut single, Smalltown Boy. It's the tale of a provincial lad who's had enough of his provincial life, sick of having to make himself smaller to fit in with those around him.
I actually have this song as my ringtone on my phone, and it has been so for many a year. I'll tell you all about it in a minute.
But lyrically, that tale is told in glimpses, subtle nods to his life before, and his motives for wanting to venture off into the great wide somewhere. In the process of leaving,
Alone on a platform, the wind and the rain on his head.
the weather mirrors the unsettled emotions he has to keep hidden.
Holy face.
What hits hardest is the chorus, a repeated stream of consciousness wailed in Somerville's powerful countertenor.
Run away, turn away, run away, turn away, run away.
As he remains outwardly brave, alone on that platform, urging himself forward towards something better.
Oh, you never tried to love just to get
The song has clear, real-world inspiration when Somerville had to leave his small-minded town 5 years earlier, and the neutered life he would have to lead if he were to stay. I wanted a lot more out of life than working in a paint factory, and having to accept that being gay was a nighttime occupation only. During the day, you didn't exist. I don't know, I just had had enough of the abuse and the heartache. I wanted more out of life, and I knew there was definitely more to get.
the love that you need will never be found before.
Lyrically, there are parallels with the Beatles' She's Leaving Home. Of course, Paul McCartney dwells on the parents who can't possibly understand.
Daddy, our baby's gone.
Whereas Smalltown Boy is about the personal journey of the one who is leaving.
Father will never understand why you had to leave.
Musically though, Bronski Beat's Runaway Ballad was mostly
Stayed.
inspired by the current vogue in the gay London clubs the band were frequenting, specifically German EBM duo DAF and the modern disco
Here's the
offshoot
vein.
High Energy. And also, surprisingly, a soupçon of punk. Well, we started out trying to do a cover of Pretty Vacant. We'd put a simple octaving sequence into an MC 202, but then slowed it down a bit. The melody began to change slightly, and it turned into Smalltown Boy. All our cover versions come out like that. The fact that for Pretty Vacant's riff, the Pistols' Glenn Matlock had been inspired by the heartbreak pop of ABBA's SOS kinda brings things full circle.
Can't you hear me, SOS?
Bronski beat ignoring the nihilism of the Sex Pistols for something more akin to the tear-stained honesty of ABBA.
What happened to our love? It used to be so good.
Smalltown Boy's accompanying music video furthers the song's impact. Directed by Bernard Rose, who'd previously directed the S&M themed extravaganza for Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Relax, took a different tact for Smalltown Boy, preferring stark realism. An unrequited romance at a swimming pool that ends in off-screen violence. The shot of the father averting his eyes, sending his battered son on his way with a £10 note, but neither a handshake nor a hug.
Very powerful video. Auntie Lillian, my twin sister, who's 30 years older, actually did this song. She did a reaction to this song. I'll put a link to her channel in the description. It really is, it really pulls the heartstrings because I can get identification out of it,
Hits the rawest nerve. Many young gay men saw themselves and their experiences in this music video. Somerville himself was lucky. In reality, his parents were uncommonly accepting for the time.
Okay.
For others, being outed would mean being shunned, exiled, or worse. So talking about it carried a stigma. Steve Bronski's
And believe it or not, it still goes on today. Maybe not as much, but it still goes on today.
parents wouldn't acknowledge his sexuality, while Steinbeck's were completely unaware before they started reading about it in interviews. Released in late May 1984, Smalltown Boy entered the UK charts at number 35. Aided by its evocative video and a couple of appearances on Top the Pops, the song would end up peaking at number 3.
But the answers you seek will never be found at home.
And as you can hear there, they're actually singing live on Top of the Pops, which doesn't happen very often.
Bronski Beat would be the first group to appear on the show, where every member was openly gay. But more than that, unlike the androgynous drag of culture clubs Boy George, and the leather chic of Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Bronski Beat weren't assuming the flamboyant caricature image of homosexuality in the media. There was no costume. Somerville in his windbreaker, jeans and Doc Martens. And in this, they were all the more subversive in their normality. No matter what some people might have wanted you to believe, they really weren't that different. Behind the scenes though, Bronski Beat were unnerving the conservative values of the BBC. Somerville showed up to rehearsals in a t-shirt portraying two cowboys exposing themselves, only to later change for broadcast into something a bit more family friendly. There was also the matter of the basement toilets at Shepherd's Bush Studios. I remember Larry coming up and saying there were glory holes in the toilet cubicles. So we'd always go down and check out the guys in there, look at their shoes under the partition, and spend the whole day matching shoes to faces. At the BBC, it was brilliant. I went back a couple of years later and the toilets had been shut down. There was a sign up about fragrant misuse of them. It was just another part of the Bronski Beat legacy. On the show, other performers weren't safe from Somerville's confrontational persona, instantly seeing through George Michael's closeted public image, and ripping others to shreds for perceived slights. In Somerville's eyes, Spandau Ballet were boringly straight, and Frankie Goes to Hollywood's only purpose was to be outrageous, but failed to further positive gay representation in pop music. Whenever we did Top of the Pops, I often wondered why my dressing room was halfway across the building. It was because I was made to stay away from everyone else, because I had such a big mouth. Boy George is such a big guy, and when we finally got to talk and be sort of friendly, he said to me, "I was so terrified of you. You had the biggest f***ing mouth."
Age of consent.
There was a chance that the pop-consuming public of the time could have ignored the implied undertones of Smalltown Boy, instead accepting it as any other hetero song about the universal theme of escape, a modernized California dreamin', or a British born to run. However, Bronski Beat's second single and second UK top 10, Why, was undeniably gay. The opening line of its verse not only sneers about the homophobia that Somerville and his band would face daily, but also defiantly stated the gender of the person he was kissing, a rarity in a year where Boy George, George Michael, Mark Armand and Freddie Mercury were hiding behind neutral pronouns. The song was inspired by an event that epitomized the violence that gay individuals were having to endure in Britain at the time. A friend who lived on this estate was having this relationship with this boy, and it was discovered. The boy's father and uncle came round to actually kill our friend, and they even went to where he worked. So he had to leave the country and go to Amsterdam. Even in the comparative gay promised land of London, assault and abuse was still an ever-present danger. Furthermore, Why was dedicated to the memory of gay playwright Drew Griffiths, who had been murdered 3 months before, stabbed through the heart 18 times. No one was ever charged. Additionally, British law was rigged against gay men. While sex between homosexual men had been decriminalised in England in 1967, in Scotland where Somerville and Bronski had grown up, it remained illegal until 1980. However, due to an interesting quirk of British law, lesbianism has never been illegal. An apocryphal explanation being that when Queen Victoria outlawed homosexuality in the late 19th century, she didn't believe that sex between women could possibly happen.
And I actually remember sharing that one night on one of the group nights that we do in the Chatterhouse. And everybody looked at me, but she didn't. She didn't believe that two lesbians, or two women, would have a sexual relationship with each other. So it was never made illegal. By the way, if you're wondering what's happening here, there's a flag going around here, and it's jumping from one bit to the other and still my head on. So let's carry on.
Even in 1984, gay British men still didn't have the same sexual rights as their heterosexual counterparts, explains Steve Erickson of Gay City News. At the time, heterosexuals could legally have sex in the UK at 16, but gay men could not do so until 21. Thus, we were legally considered paedophiles and could be prosecuted for consensual sexual behaviour that was perfectly acceptable for straight teenagers and young men. The title of Bronski Beat's first album commented on this state of affairs. Name the age of consent. The liner notes printed a compare-and-contrast list of European countries' minimum age for lawful, consensual homosexual relationships. The supposedly liberal England, Wales and Scotland tied for highest with Bulgaria. The intent was clear. This needed to change. As a much-needed lifeline to those that have found their true self through Bronski Beat's music, the liner notes also featured the number of the gay legal advice line, which was swamped with calls in the aftermath. Continuing to work with Mike Thorne, the album concludes with a cover of Donna Summer's I Feel Love. Augmented with the ghostly hook from Johnny Layton's 1961 classic, Johnny Remember Me. Since its release in 1977, I Feel Love had become a gay anthem, with the cover an attempt by Somerville to reclaim it for his community, especially after Summer had become a born-again Christian in 1983, at the same time turning her back on and lashing out at those that had made her an icon. The Age of Consent would touch on a variety of subjects, including the anti-capitalist lament of love and money, the rant against mindless consumer culture of junk, and the plea for peace of no more war. Only 4 songs overtly mention the band's sexuality, but for some reviewers, including Enemies Bibikoff, 4 songs seemed like too much. Nobody gives a toss what they get up to in the dark, and that's what troubles them. Somerville countered, for him to turn around, a straight man, and tell us to keep our mouths shut, when we're the only band who have 3 men who are openly gay, and who actually sing about homosexual love, and for him to say he's sick of hearing it. We don't say that when we have to put up every single day with heterosexual love songs, heterosexual images constantly hitting us in the face. Released in October 1984, The Age of Consent peaked at...
Okay, so the Age of Consent album was released in 1984, and as it said on the cover, it gave out all that information, it gave out about the gang, the lesbian switchboard and all that there. I came across it in 1987. I was 16 and just about to leave school. It was a friend of mine actually introduced me to it, and they said, sure, you have to listen to this. And the thing about it was, this is actually a straight person, so it was, this person wasn't gay. And he actually is still a good friend of mine today. And he introduced me, and this is how I was introduced to Bronski Beat, you know, so it's just interesting the way things happen. So that was 1984, that was 3 years it was out before I got introduced to it, so there you go. That's how much of an impact it had.
At number 4 on the UK charts, and would eventually go platinum in both the UK and Canada. But all was not well within Bronski Beat.
Oh dear.
The original lineup of Bronski Beat didn't last long. Formed in July 1983, within 24 months Somerville had left. Their respective motives for the group misaligned. Bronski and Steinbeck were more than happy to be merely pop stars, collecting hit singles and adopting a higher standard of living. The group would continue without Somerville to some success with new singer John Foster, including another number 3 single, Hit That Perfect Beat, in January 1986. Somerville didn't like the pop star lifestyle, and how he'd become one of the most recognisable faces in Britain. This led to a particularly surreal encounter when he was arrested for public indecency in February 1985. I mean, I actually laughed when I got caught, because at the police station they were outrageous. This pig was saying, "Oh, my daughter thinks you're wonderful. He's just caught me for sucking somebody's dick in the park, and he's telling me that his daughter thinks I'm wonderful. I was gonna send him a gold disc, but I decided against it." Somerville also wanted his band to stand for something, urging them to play benefits and rallies that his bandmates had little interest in. In December 1984, Bronski Beat headlined Pits and Perverts, a fundraising concert organised by Lesbians and Gays Support the Miners, ultimately raising £5,650 for the cause. As odd a combination as it seems, both factions were railing against Margaret Thatcher, and together were stronger. As the Communards, his post-Bronski Beat duo with the classically trained Richard Coles, Somerville would continue to put his voice behind these political causes, most prominently Red Wedge, a tour of left-leaning British musicians like Paul Weller's Style Council, Tom Robinson and Billy Bragg, attempting to get young people voting, preferably for Labour. A couple of the Communards' biggest hits were rephrased disco classics within a synth-pop high-energy mode. Their versions of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes' Don't Leave Me This Way, made famous by Thelma Houston. And Gloria Gaynor's take on the Jackson 5's Never Can Say Goodbye, being their only singles to hit the UK top 5. For a Friend from 1988's Red was written in tribute to Mark Ashton. Head organiser for Lesbians and Gays Support the Miners.
Now, Mark Ashton, he was featured very highly in the film Pride, and it's when the gay community went and supported the miners in the miners' strike. It's actually a very good film if you have never ever seen it. But Mark unfortunately died of AIDS, so he was a lovely fella. I didn't know him, but he was very, very nice.
And best friend of Somerville. He was the first friend of Somerville to have died from AIDS, an ominous deadly spectre that by this point loomed in the gay community. The fact that so many British pop stars were closeted and not talking about this ravaging pandemic frustrated Somerville, especially in the face of Section 28. In 1988, Thatcher introduced law that prohibited promotion of homosexuality by local authorities, effectively ending LGBTQ+ education in British schools until 2003. And
I found out recently that Section 28 or Clause 28, whatever you want to call it, was not brought into Northern Ireland. I thought it was, because obviously Northern Ireland is supposed to be officially part of the UK, but it was never ever brought in here, which is really, really strange.
So many people who are being so successful and just putting their career first and not saying much. During the emergence of what was happening with AIDS, no one was saying anything. Then here was us trying to get as much information as we could, and trying to put it out there and talk about it. I felt kinda alone and on my own. Mark Armand came out in 1987, Pet Shop Boys' Neil Tennant in 1994. George Michael was forced out after he was arrested by the LA police in 1997. It took until 1992 for Elton John to reveal himself as gay, and not bisexual as he had in 1976. Freddie Mercury never talked publicly about his sexuality before his death in 1991. Somerville had not only been out since the start, he was bravely discussing the important issues, letting young gay men know that they are not alone, just like how listening to the Village People and Sylvester had served the same purpose for him. The age of consent for gay men in England, Scotland and Wales was finally made 16 in 2001. The road to better is never short nor easy. And though there was and still is a long way to go, modern out queer pop stars owe a lot to the groundwork of Bronski Beat.
That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel. Or do you not think so far ahead? Blessed be the mystery of love.
Kelly Okereke of Block Party even covered Smalltown Boy.
Run away, turn away, run away, turn away.
As has Orville Peck.
Run away, turn away, run away, turn away, run away.
However, the staying power of the song goes beyond its status as a gay anthem, because it helped erase those invisible boundaries and the implied otherness that separates us. As producer Mike Thorne stated in the liner notes of the 2018 reissue of The Age of Consent, Smalltown Boy was a huge hit, quite simply, because it spoke to everybody, whatever their sexual preference or gender. You could read it as gay if you felt it, but the impact was much broader and certainly not specific. We've all been alone on the platform at some time in our lives. These lyrics weren't pretending to be part of conventional pop, nor wailing on about social injustice. Quite simply, they were human. Thanks for watching. So what is your favourite LGBTQ plus pop song from the 80s or beyond? Comment.
So there you go, folks. That was absolutely brilliant. You know, it was nice to look back, and it's also nice to learn a bit as well about where you came from, where I came from. Unbelievable. And as I say, you know, they were talking about, you know, homophobia and stuff, and parents accepting their children, and there's still people to this day are suffering because they're not being accepted. There's still people being bullied, and there's still people being under homophobic attacks and everything. And like, we're in 2025 now. It might not be as much, but it shouldn't be at all. It's still happening. Okay, folks, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you really, really enjoyed that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to the Chatterhouse, please do. As you know, the Chatterhouse is not only a reaction channel, we also are a community channel. And we look at all aspects of community life and what's going on, as you can see. And also, we go live once or twice a week. We do quizzes, we do talk about all different things. We've spoke about mental health before, we've addressed missing people before. We discuss everything. Also, folks, if you'd like to help out a wee bit more to give the channel a wee bit of support, there is a little QR code on there. If you just scan that there, you can buy me a wee drop of tea, and it would help the running of the channel. Well, look, folks, thanks very much for joining me today. Don't forget now, this is Celebrate Who You Are Day, and there will be 2 more videos coming today. So I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.